Okay. 3, 2, 1. Alright guys, welcome to this next little video where we're going to be taking a look at this beauty. Oh yeah. Alright guys, so before we get into this video, please like, comment, subscribe, do all that fun stuff. It really helps me out. A lot more than what you guys realize. I know that every YouTuber says this because it really does matter all that much. So, just enjoy the video, and this is going to be a little bit more of a talking head video, but, yeah, just enjoy. So guys, today we're going to be taking a look at this beauty. Now, first and foremost, I gotta say, I'm sorry this video took a little bit longer to come out. It's because I genuinely thought that I needed to sit down and experience what an R9 290 can actually do. So, quick little background on this particular graphics card. When I bought my R9 290X Matrix Platinum, which is where this cooler is from, I actually bought it with another graphics card that, well, I bought it from two different sellers all just at the same time, which was an R9 290 DirectCU2. Now, the DirectCU2 came, and the cooler was just absolutely smashed. It had been, like, something had been dropped on it or something, and the whole back half of the cooler was just mangled. And I figured, you know what, this graphics card is probably dead, but I want to try it at least to find out if it is actually dead. Oh, luckily enough, it wasn't dead, that it actually had zero issues. It was just a smashed cooler. And when I pulled off the cooler for the DirectCU2 and I realized that the cooler was the exact same, at least base layout, of the Matrix Platinum, I simply swapped over the coolers and took two broken graphics cards and made one that looks really, really nice and actually performs well. Which, by the way, that really surprised me that this graphics card survived that. So that's just a testament to something. I don't know. So, why did it take me so long to get this video out? Because I went into this with the mindset and expectations of, you know what, I'm just going to do some benchmarks, try and record some gameplay with this graphics card. It doesn't really matter. It's not like it's going to be in my main rig at all. I don't care. I paired it with the W3680 CPU, which I actually had overclocked to 4.3 gigahertz, but then I decided, you know what, this graphics card probably isn't going to be paired with a W3680 overclocked that far, so I actually dropped it back down to its out-of-the-box frequency at 3.46, which is what it has as an all-core turbo before you overclock it, because I figured for anybody who's going to be looking at this graphics card, they're not going to be having an extreme-level CPU, because this is more of like a look at the CPU, or the GPU, not necessarily the CPU. Okay guys, so actually looking at this thing's performance, which is first and foremost what we should probably do, we had a couple of benchmarks here. Destiny 2, medium settings, 900p. By the way, all games here were recorded at 900p. So Destiny 2, medium settings, 900p. This graphics card got an average FPS of 90, which really surprised me. Grim Dawn, 60, medium settings. Fallout 4, 60, ultra settings. Skyrim, 60, ultra settings. Dota 2, average FPS, 99, but that's because that game is more CPU bound than GPU bound. Outer Worlds, 80 FPS, with a medium settings, average. Paladins, 150 average FPS, high settings, actually completely maxed out settings. Rage 2, now Rage 2 was the only one that kind of was a, Rage 2, when I had it V-synced, soft V-synced to 60 FPS, it maintained an average 60 FPS. But it was not a good 60 FPS, because the frame times were literally, utterly atrocious. I removed the V-sync, so it was non-V-synced, and it got an average of 80 FPS. With perfect frame times. What the crap, Rage 2? Why are you that busted of a game? And that was at medium settings, 80 FPS average, really good frame times. I played for about 3 hours on that game with this card. I didn't think that I was going to do that. Now, the reason I just kind of rushed through the benchmarks is because, well, we need to actually take a look at something else. This card today, we are not going to be comparing it to what I was originally going to compare it to, being a 770, which I have sitting right here, my GTX 770 2 gig. Because that wouldn't be a fair comparison to the AMD card, we're actually going to be comparing it today to my GTX 980 Ti. Now, I know there's going to be some people saying, whoa, that's way too powerful of a graphics card to compare to this thing. as a fair comparison. But actually, it is a fair comparison. For my use case scenario, yes, I did not have the settings as high as what I would with my 980 Ti, but the only reason I have my settings cranked on my 980 Ti is because it doesn't actually affect my performance at all. I'm totally fine with playing a game at medium settings. In fact, I kind of rather play a game at medium settings than play it at ultra settings because I think it's less distracting to have less prettiness, because when I play a game, I'm typically playing it to, well, in most cases, play a competitive gaming experience. Now, let's move on to what this graphics card actually gave me that made me take so long. Now, the first game that I started off by testing was Destiny 2. I set it to medium settings, and I hopped into PvP Crucible, which was just standard control, just having a good time. And I was absolutely floored by its performance, being the fact that it felt like I was playing on my 980 Ti. It felt super, super smooth. It was super good. And then I decided, you know what, hang on, I want to try recording some video with this. So I did. And I had played about 4 games of Crucible where I had forgotten that I had turned on my recording. And when I realized that I'd actually been recording the entire time, I was floored by the fact that I never dropped frames. Using the AMD Relive software, however you want to call it, or whatever it's called, this graphics card gave me a better gaming experience than when I'm recording with my 980 Ti, which to me just destroys what I thought that I knew about graphics cards. The reason I have my 980 Ti was because when I was first getting into YouTube, I had my 780. It was my first high-end GPU, and that was only about a year and a half ago that I first got that GPU, and I loved it. I absolutely played the crap out of that thing, and I loved recording with it, but I always got really bad performance dips when I was using that graphics card to record or stream. So I bumped it up to a 980 Ti, which was the most expensive, reasonable graphics card that I could actually purchase. I got it for about $210 shipped to my front door. So, yeah, I think it was exactly $210 shipped to my front door, which was a very reasonable price for that kind of a graphics card. Comparing it, though, to this, I never dropped frames when I was recording. Now, my recordings dropped frames a couple of times, but that was less impactful than actually just... So, it had dropped a few frames, but that was less impactful in my opinion than having constant frame dips when recording and gaming at the same time, which really kind of destroyed my expectations, simply because this graphics card I did not think was going to be able to do what it did. And then when I tried to edit together those clips, just put them together and then render them out, this graphics card actually was utilized more than what my 980 Ti was by Vegas. Now, Vegas Platinum Movie Studio 13 is what I've been using for a very long time, and it is just what I've kind of grown accustomed to, and that's the video editing software that I've just probably going to stick with using because it works. Yeah, it had some optimization problems, but a few console commands and that thing runs just fine, but I digress. So, comparing what I can do with my 980 Ti and comparing what I can do with this, yes, this will give me less overall FPS, will give me less high settings, it will give me a less couple of things, but not bad. Not bad enough to the point where I couldn't justify putting this in my main daily rig. In fact, I kind of want to try to put this in my main daily rig for a little while just to see how well I can live with it. I lived with it for about a week, and I have absolutely no complaints, especially comparing it to my 980 Ti, which I don't know why I expected so much less out of this graphics card. But guys, this is the first time I've ever truly used an AMD solution for a higher-end GPU. Now, I did have that R9 390, which I had purchased, I had used for about a day and a half, just kind of messing around with it, making sure the graphics card worked, and then I put it on my shelf. A week later, my friend contacted me and said that she needed a computer, that she really wanted a gaming computer, and because I just knew that she was going to get good use out of it, I gave her the R9 390. I knew it worked fine, and I didn't mind getting rid of it because I didn't think that I was going to actually enjoy it. After utilizing the R9 290, I'm really kind of curious to see what a 390 can do for me. I really kind of want to go back and pick up like an R9 Fury and a Vega 56, Vega 64 maybe. I want to go back and I really want to test out some of these other AMD GPU options. RX 480, RX 580. How well could something like this actually record, game, stream? How well could these AMD solutions work compared to the GTX counterparts? And that's what I really wanted to get, or that's what I really wanted to pull away from this. Why did I spend so much money on GTX solutions when AMD might be the way to go when it comes to recording and streaming? Simply because the AMD software is actually really good. I never thought that it was, but once I learned how to use it, it's more intuitive than any of the GTX software. The resolution upscaling works significantly better on this thing than what it does on the GTX cards. Essentially, the DLSR for GTX cards makes if you're taking like 900p to 1080p, it makes it look really, really blurry. But then this thing, I almost didn't notice a difference when it came to upscaling the graphical quality, which really surprised me. And I don't really have anything bad to say about this card. Well, there are a few cons of this card, but one of those cons is actually a pro in my opinion, but I'll get into that in a minute here. This card really did more for me than what I thought it could. I thought that it was going to be a fair comparison against my 770, which I still really like. But I knew going into this video that I was not going to be able to compare it to the 770 with a clean conscience, because the 770 is significantly less powerful than the R9 290. Even though that this thing was kind of based, the R9 290X was based upon the 780, or essentially designed to kill the 780, well, this was kind of designed to be a stopgap between the 770 and the 780. So, take that as you will, but I just knew that this thing had to be compared to something more powerful. That's why I chose to look at the 980 Ti, my 980 Ti, to really give you guys a good understanding of, well, this graphics card might be a good solution. Now we're going to get into some cons. Main con. It's kind of older. And it sucks a metric crap ton of power. This thing, out of its stock configuration, the DirectCU 2 out of its stock configuration, actually takes up a little bit less power than my 980 Ti when it's got its extreme overclock actually applied. Which is kind of funny, but I mean, it is what it is. But because this thing takes up more power, it does run hotter, and because it runs hotter, the fans spin up louder, which means that the graphics card itself is louder. But it's not unusable. I mean, would I say it's dead silent? No, but to be totally fair, my 980 Ti doesn't actually have its fan spinning when this thing would. So, take that as you will. Let's see, what are some other cons for it? I really can't think of many. All the cons that I would have are actually more pros than cons, honestly. So, let's look at some of the pros. One of the pros, this card takes up more power. You know why that's a pro? Because GPU miners won't touch these things. These graphics cards are not profitable to use for GPU mining, which means that these have stayed really low cost. The DirectCU 2 I ordered, I think I paid $60 for the card and then another $8 for shipping, so for about $70, I got a graphics card that feasibly I could use as my main daily driving graphics card, which just destroyed my expectations. And because of their relatively low cost, they're easy to find. The 980 Ti, or the, not 980 Ti, sorry. The R9 290s and the R9 290Xs are both relatively about the same price. The 290Xs will go for about $100, when the 290s typically will go for between $75 and $90, which is not the lowest price of a graphics card you could pick up, but they perform like a flagship. They perform way better than what I thought they could. And when using it at a lower resolution monitor, or using it as a lower resolution graphics card, it actually makes sense. And being the fact that this card cost me less than half of what my 980 Ti did, it really, really makes me wonder, if I wouldn't have bought my 980 Ti and I would have picked up a Vega 56, which was another graphics card I had been thinking about at that point in time, but I didn't want to take a risk on an AMD GPU not allowing me to do what I wanted to do, I wonder how good of performance I actually could have gotten out of the Vega 56, to the point where I would love to pick one up. Unfortunately, Vega 56s are still very good mining cards, and because of that, the prices are absolutely astronomical, which is stupid. Which is why this bad boy was really smart. This thing, cost-effective-wise, is great. Power efficiency-wise, not so great. And, well, let's be honest here. The R9 290 and R9 390 sit right between the RX 470 and RX 480. Or the RX 470, 570, 480, 580. They sit right in between those two graphics cards performance-wise, and that's really not a bad thing. Imagine paying RX 470 prices for an RX 580. Yes, it takes up more power, and yes, it's going to be a little bit louder, but these cards were the flagship, comparing it to the GTX 780s. These cards were AMD's try to kill for the GTX cards, but there is also one more con that I just thought of that I had kind of forgotten about. The R9 series, being the R9 Fury, R9 390, R9 290, are not Vulkan optimized. They are optimized for DirectX 11. They are not optimized for Vulkan, so you won't be seeing massive performance increases through a Vulkan API game, which, I mean, it'll still perform well with Vulkan. It just won't be as good as if it was on DirectX 11, which, yet again, that's kind of a con that's a little bit bigger, but at the end of the day, there's not a whole heck of a lot of games that are running strictly Vulkan besides, I think, Strange Brigade and the, the Doom Eternal. I think that one's strictly Vulkan. I could be wrong about that, though, but I digress. Kind of just to wrap up this video, because this has been going on for a long time, I love the R9 290. I loved it way more than what I thought I was going to. I plan on running more and more benchmarks with this graphics card, and I think it's about time that I do a direct one-to-one comparison between the R9 290 and the GTX 780, which is the only other graphics card that I really think could be competitive with this card, because this card is a lower cost. Well, so is the 780, and to tell you the truth, the 780 I feel like performs really well, even comparing it to my 980 Ti, which my 980 Ti performs the best out of all the cards, but not by much, not when using it at a lower resolution the way that I do. So, just some more food for thought. We got some fun videos coming up, and the next video should be kind of an interesting one. Let's just say we're going back, and I don't regret it. See you guys later. Peace.